Welcome to this week in the world of wrestling.
Welcome to TWitWoW, the best wrestling podcast made for wrestling fans, by wrestling fans, on the web today. I'm John, that's my cohort and commentary, Ashton, and this is our Lucha Underground review. And my, oh my, what an episode of Lucha Underground this was. If there was a pervading theme that I felt dominated tonight's episode, it was all about vengeance. And man, we got some solid matches, some intriguing storyline progression, two phenomenal matches made for next week. I mean, this show really packed a punch. Ashton, what'd you think of it, man?
It was so strange because for the first 35 or so minutes of this show, I was honestly a little bit underwhelmed. I kind of felt like, man, this has just kind of felt like a sort of a typical wrestling show. There hasn't really been anything that stood out too much beyond kind of what your typical episode of Lucha Underground would be. And then that last match happened and everything changed.
Yeah, I mean, we are probably going to have a really in-depth conversation about that match when we get to it. But for now, let's get right into our first segment, Heat of the Night. I've got no heats tonight, no nitpicks. I thoroughly enjoyed this hour of Lucha Underground tonight.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, man. I almost had a little bit of a nitpick in that it was starting to feel more like a wrestling show and it wasn't feeling as special, but then that last match completely put a kibosh on that.
Yeah, absolutely. So with that said, let us get right into our Lucha Underground review. And we open things up with a recap, so all the stories that are going to be very prevalent this week are kind of reset for us. We hear about, Drago and Aerostar's Best of 5 series, Fenix and Muertes, their struggle, all that stuff. And then, if I'm not mistaken, we do have a cold open. We have a match right off the bat, the third match in the Best of 5 series, Aerostar versus Drago.
Yeah, and I love Drago, and I've actually found myself kind of becoming more of a fan of Aerostar, almost to the point that I feel like he's underrated. But right. I have struggled so much to get invested into this match series. The only thing that I'm kind of clinging on to and hoping will kind of make this whole thing worth it is that something awesome is going to happen when the whole thing's over, that we're going to, whatever the special opportunity is that Cueto is offering the winner is going to be something crazy, unique that we've never seen before.
Yeah, I mean, the prize at the end is definitely very alluring, and it's definitely piqued my curiosity greatly. What I appreciated about this match is that I feel like both guys kind of changed it up a little bit, particularly Drago when I say this. I liked how the match started. You had Aerostar working over the arm of Drago, but then Drago comes out and he does some leg working and some leg-based maneuvers. The wrestling both men seem to engage in seem to be more technical, more grounded, more scientific compared to the aerial maneuverings we know both men are capable of. Drago also illustrated more of a power game to me. We saw an Alabama slam from him at one point and a power bomb from him at another point. So it was cool to see him do that power offense. But then when the match really picked up, then it got to the aerial maneuverings that we're so used to. Aerostar did the one maneuver where it's pretty much like he launches himself from the back onto Drago. Got a lot of height and elevation on that one in particular. I popped for it real nice. Drago did this kind of swinging, almost like a weird-looking version of like a swing bottom to me, where he kind of swings him around. It looks like Aerostar is going to counter, but then Drago just plants him down. That was a pretty cool maneuver. End of the match, though, comes when Drago is straddled on the top rope. Aerostar goes to the opposite corner. He walks along the ropes, does the Hurricane Rana, so you want to talk about showing off. I think Aerostar just gave Dolph Ziggler some major competition there. And then he does the springboard splash to get the victory in the third matchup, so he is now up 2-1 in this series. And I like, too, that after the match, the post-match, they did the show of respect like they've been doing. Drago, though, it's not necessarily that he was hesitant. I think you could sense a little bit of frustration from him. So another thing I'm curious about, not just the prize that Cueto is offering, is somebody going to turn in the wake of this series when it's all said and done? Is the loser going to be so bitter about their loss that they cross over to the dark side, so to speak?
Yeah, that's kind of the only other thing aside from the prize at the end of the tunnel, I guess you could call it, that's really kind of got me invested. But then tonight I was almost disappointed because, like, I thought Drago was going to do something. Like, dude, you just lost. I think he lost 2 in a row, didn't he? Because he won the first match.
Yeah.
So you just lost 2 matches in a row to this dude, and you're not salty at all. Like, I thought he was going to, like, slap the hand away and just walk away or something. I thought we were going to get some kind of progression. I think that's what it really is. That kind of disappointed me about this whole thing tonight, was that it didn't feel like we got anything new out of this feud.
To me, and see, like, I felt like, again, you could see, at least for me, a little bit of hesitation, maybe frustration from Drago. I like that they're doing the slow burn with this, because I think the explosion, the real progression, is going to come when there's that sense of finality that accompanies it. You know, the series is over, and we have our winner and our loser. Drago may be keeping it all under wraps because he thinks, okay, I just have to, you know, we still have a 4th match, and if I can win that, then we go to a 5th match. I know I can beat Aerostar. Maybe in their 4th match, we'll see Drago do some kind of underhanded tactic or a questionable tactic to get the win. I mean, you know, so I'm still very much engaged. I know you are too, you know, looking towards, you know, the payoff and everything, and I just think it's cool we're getting a best-of-5 series. You know, I'm a fan of this when you get the 2 right workers to do it, and I feel like these guys have a decent chemistry with each other. And again, I enjoyed the little discrepancies that this match had compared to their prior 2 bouts. Again, it seemed to be more of a power game, more of a technical side to it, and peppered in with the aerial offense. So this is a fun opener.
Yeah, you know what I would really love, though, is if they completely change it up, because that's one thing that Lucha Underground is great at, is when you expect them to do something, they sort of look at what the obvious choice is and then do the complete opposite. So what I would love to see is, because everyone and their mom knows Drago's going to win next time they have a match. So What would be great is if they would have Aerostar win in an upset, and then Drago snaps because he can't handle losing 3-1.
Right. Yeah, I could definitely see that happening. I mean, you never know with Lucha Underground. I love how up in the air they keep everything, because they could. They could very easily have this go to a 5th match, and I could see where you're coming from with the predictability, but then I think, oh man, it's really down to the wire, and what's this prize that Cueto is, you know, hanging over their heads? Then again, you could have Aerostar really make, you know, no pun intended, a star out of this guy, where he's been under the radar all this time, and now he's got this program, and he wins, you know, pretty much a sweep of 3-1, like you said. And Drago, this guy who I once thought, you know, could be in contendership for the Lucha Underground world title, just seems to be on this downward spiral, and he finally takes matters into his own hands to kind of remedy it. I think both routes are equally viable, and I'll be intrigued to see where this goes.
Yeah, that's really, it's really one of those things where, like, this week was just kind of filler. Like, this had to happen because we know that it's a best-of-5 match, but it's really going to start getting interesting from here on out.
Absolutely.
All right, up next, after the Aerostar Drago match, we had a freaking vignette, and this was a combination of mind-blowing and almost sort of I guess you could say anticlimactic all at the same time, because for weeks now we've been getting these Conan vignettes, and he's had these 4 to 5 guys in sort of the shadows, lurking in the shadows, and you and I have been kind of speculating, as well as a bunch of other people that kind of interact with us on YouTube and on Twitter and stuff like that. Maybe this is going to be like a new faction for Conan. Maybe he's getting a new group of guys to act as almost like the front line for him and Puma, as sort of like the top of that pyramid, I guess you could say. Kind of like how Triple H kind of, you know, with DX as his kind of wall between him and the rest of the competition on the roster.
Right.
But no, I mean, we find out here that it was just setting up for a frickin' chess analogy or a chess metaphor. Conan uses his newly reinforced stick / walking stick / cane, whatever you want to call it, to just whip the crap out of these 4 or 5 guys. And it's all a metaphor for him and Puma playing chess together, and him trying to teach Puma that the last man standing is the one who believes he can the most.
And, you know, I liked it from a stylistic standpoint, from a visual standpoint, it does leave me with some questions, because here's the thing about Conan. When you hear guys like Vampiro talk about him and you see how he's portrayed on Lucha Underground, the guy, while he has, babyface clientele, because Prince Puma is clearly, a good guy, he's the world champion, all this, the guy's a hard ass.
Right.
And you see that. So to me, I was almost wondering, well, is he just kind of training with these guys? And, he's taking it to him because Conan's a cutthroat guy. So these guys may still have a more significant role to play than just being bodies to fulfill this metaphor. Right. They may be guys that Conan is training and whipping into shape. And again, like, I wouldn't be surprised, to see Conan with guys that he's trying to break into a certain mold to prepare for a battle that, he wants to win, be incredibly ruthless, especially with that cane. And then maybe, the chess match between him and Puma is an isolated event, because he's trying to educate Puma on the side with what's going on and finally roping him into the plan. Because that's what I found intriguing about the prior vignettes, was the complete absence of Prince Puma. And that's kind of an element I appreciated this week, because Prince Puma got reintroduced into the fold.
Yeah.
So, it's
when was the last time Prince Puma was actually in a match on Lucha Underground? That's my question. It's been so long.
It feels like at least 3 weeks to me, maybe.
Yeah.
But that's what I really liked about this, Ashton. It's like, and you know what too? I liked the contrast too. And maybe I'm reading too much into it, but Conan was doing all of these shadowy practices, training with the guys and working with the cane and all that in a room where, like the lighting, they had a lot of darkness going on. And yet he's playing this game of chess with Prince Puma in the daylight, almost as if to say, okay, I'm finally ready to bring him into the fold. My plan is almost complete. I just need to bring Puma in on it and, enlighten him with what's going on. So it's almost like, everything's coming out in the open now.
It almost makes me wonder if they're going to try and play it up like Conan lives a double life, where he is Prince Puma's manager and mentor during the day, but then at night he's training and trying to kind of get to a point where he doesn't need Puma to act as his almost bodyguard.
Absolutely. And see, that's kind of the vibe that I was getting, though. You put it perfectly, and I couldn't have put it so eloquently. Lucha Underground has taught me from episode 1, not
pay attention to details.
Pay attention to details, and not everything is as it seems. So while these guys may just be to the casual
what
viewer,
have we seen so far that wasn't as it seemed? I feel like if anything, Lucha Underground has taught us to take everything as literally as possible.
But I mean, in this case, I don't know. I still feel like those 4 guys.
No, serious. I wasn't saying that to be like a smarmy devil's advocate or anything. I genuinely want to know, like, what has Lucha Underground ever done that wasn't exactly as it seemed?
I can't even really think at the moment, and I'm not going to dwell on it because that'll lead a lot of time, but my point being, I feel like I'm not ready to sleep on these guys yet, and I still feel like they may be serving a grander purpose, and it was just, I personally just really love this vignette, and I'm curious exactly what Conan's vengeance is going to be, and it may be coming sooner than we think. Who knows? So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Up next, we had our second match of the evening, and the first of the 2 matches that you would say had some kind of vengeance involved in them. Big Ryck versus the Crew, and man, all I can say is Big Ryck dominated these guys. They did get offense. It wasn't a complete squash match. But it was one of those things where as soon as Big Ryck found a way to isolate one guy, he destroyed that guy, and then he destroyed another guy, and then the other guy tried to run away. Sexy Star prevented him from doing so, and Big Ryck destroyed him too. So it was complete and utter decimation.
I love how Lucha Underground adheres to the KISS model. For those who don't know, because I've used this reference in the past, it's keep it simple, stupid, with Big Ryck's character. Because he just goes in and he runs roughshod, and they realize that the value of Big Ryck is having him dominate. That's when he's entertaining, not when he has these more humanistic qualities, not when he's vulnerable, when he is a beast. And they really, I mean, they've illustrated it to me multiple times in the past, but they did it again here, and I love that, because at one point the Crew tries using a kendo stick on the back of Big Ryck, and he eats it. It pumps him up. And that's when he starts just really ripping these guys apart.
And that's when he realized that he made the gravest mistake, because guess what? Now Big Ryck has a weapon.
Exactly. And he was not shy about using it, because he took it to everybody. And also, I don't know if psychology would be the word, or storytelling, because Bale is the first one eliminated. Like, he's gone. He gets taken out. Then Cortez Castro, soon after, he gets eliminated after Big Ryck does a clothesline kendo stick assisted maneuver, and he pins him. That leaves Cisco, Mr. Cisco, the only one left, who burned Big Ryck's eye in the first place, and commentary made sure to point this out. I love that.
And you know what, dude? Here's my thing. If the commentary wouldn't have said that, I would have been questioning it the whole time. I would have been like, now, was it Cortez or was it Cisco that burned his eye? And thank you, commentary, for letting us know for sure which one it was.
Yeah, I feel like commentary was really on point tonight, too. So, you know, Vampiro's really growing on me. And even Stryker, I feel like, because he was the one that brought it up. So Stryker is learning how to be more clutch when it matters. And so I do have to commend him for that.
Stryker did have one point where he annoyed me in this match, where he was... And here's my thing. Like, I understand that it is Big Ryck. It's part of Big Ryck's gimmick, where he kind of recites the Bible verses as sort of an intimidation factor. But that doesn't mean that Stryker needs to go and do the same thing. Like, it's one of those things where you hear the Usos saying, when we say Us, y'all say, oh, Us, oh. You don't hear Michael Cole saying that. He says Uso crazy. You know, John Cena says you can't see me, but Michael Cole and JBL and Booker T, they don't say you can't see me. They say John Cena's awesome. Stop doing the guy's gimmick for him. Stop. I mean, I get that the reciting the Bible verses is part of Big Ryck's gimmick, and that's awesome because it reminds me of Jules Winfield from Pulp Fiction. But Matt Stryker is trying to copy his gimmick, and when he does it, not only does it not make sense because it's not your gimmick, it's his gimmick, but it also takes away from his commentary because he's reciting his Bible verse and he's spitting out all these freaking words and sentences, and he's taking up all this time. And he even got to a point where he said, I can't even finish because there's so much going on in the ring right now. Well, yeah, no kidding. You shouldn't have started in the first place, you mark.
Nothing I can really add to that, man. You know, Big Ryck looks like he's about to, you know, finish.
Do you have an opinion on that matter, John?
I just feel like, you know, to me, there's always a better way to sum things up and kind of deliver it to an audience. Because I get that you want the audience to know, you know, what the vibe of this guy is, what his aura is about, what his character is. But, you know, you don't actually steal from the source material. You know, there's a better way to do it. Yeah, I'm not really the biggest fan of it either, mainly because, really for the reason he said, you know, when you have to go that lengthy and be that winded, you're missing pivotal moments in the matchup that you should be relaying to the audience anyway.
Yeah,
I think that
yeah, exactly, and that was my biggest problem with it. Now, the whole idea that he's doing Big Ryck's gimmick for him, I don't necessarily like that either, but my biggest problem with it was that it was so long-winded that he couldn't call any of the stuff that was happening in the ring while he was reciting that.
Right.
And that really just got on my nerves. So I've been a lot more forgiving towards Stryker lately, but tonight he got back on my nerves. And that was really the only thing that he did to get on my nerves. He's definitely gotten a lot better. He's definitely gotten a lot better at not over talking and kind of being able to hold back a little bit when he doesn't need to say something and he just wants to. So I got to give him credit for that. But man, that one little moment where he's just like, oh, I'm going to recite this gigantic 3-paragraph long freaking Bible verse in the middle of a match. Okay.
Right. You know, so it looks like Big Ryck is getting ready, you know, to finish the job, you know, get his vengeance in a clean sweep. Cisco, though, realizes this. He's like, no, I'm out. So he tries to go, you know, up the stairs to the temple, but then Sexy Star's awaiting him at the top. And I love this because she starts beating, you know, the crap out of him, and he tumbles down the stairs. So as they're going down the stairs, she's beating the crap out of him. And then finally they get to a point where, you know, they're close to the ring. She throws him back into it, and then she flips him off. I love that. Love that. And then Cisco is just kind of like, forget you. And he turns around, and I guess he forgets that the whole reason he left in the first place was to escape Big Ryck, because he walks right into a right hand. He gets busted open. Big Rick's kind of working that wound a little bit, elbow shots, more punches. And then finally he sets a chair up in the middle of the ring. And he does I don't know what his finisher is called in Lucha Underground, but he does a Uranagi that we've seen him do on the chair. And it just looked brutal. And he pins Mr. Cisco. So Big Rick does win. Definitely the right decision. Again, I just really can't praise Lucha Underground enough for how they've handled Big Rick, because they're not trying to make him seem overly vulnerable. They're not trying to put him in these clinics. They say no, where his money is when he can go out, wreck shop, and be dominant. The moment he gets back in the Lucha Underground title picture, I don't care if it's Cage, I don't care if it's Puma, they better be watching themselves, because Big Rick in this match proved just what a monster he is. I love it.
Absolutely. Yep. Yeah, he's at his best when he is not necessarily trying to sort of steal the show from a wrestling perspective. He's at his best when he's allowed to be the big badass who is out for, whether it's blood or revenge, with a purpose. That's what it needs to be, the badass with a purpose.
Absolutely. Well said. Let's move on. Did we have anything before our main event that should be discussed?
We got a pretty important announcement.
Yes, we've got 2 championship matches next week. I am so hyped for this. The AAA Championship, Alberto El Patron versus Tejano, in a bull rope match. Man, that's going to be something. And for the Lucha Underground Championship, we have got Prince Puma versus the #1 contender, Cage, in a Boyle Heights street fight. Wow.
Yeah.
Quick thing, and this is really all I want to say about this besides the fact that I am hyped. Love that the AAA Championship is being defended on an episode of Lucha Underground. Love that. I think
I love is that you and I have had questions. What are they going to do about the Lucha Underground Championship? What are they going to acknowledge the AAA Championship because it's a different promotion, even though it's the same promotion? What are they going to do about those 2 big titles? And they're answering all of the questions that we've ever had about it in one night.
Exactly. And in just 2 matches that really are pay-per-view quality in their scope.
Yeah.
I can't wait, dude. It's going to be awesome.
I'm telling you, see, here's my thing. I was tempted. I wasn't sure if I wanted to even ask, but I was tempted to ask you if you wanted to do live reactions to last week's show, this week's show, and next week's show. And the only reason that I decided against it is because there wasn't really a proper build-up to like, oh my god, these shows are going to be incredible. So what do you think, John? Do you want to do live reactions to next week, or do you want to just hold off until there's a bigger show?
You know what? For the time, see, that's so difficult.
Yeah, I think we should hold off.
Yeah, I was going to say hold off, but
okay.
Hey guys, don't let that discount. I think this is going to be some epic programming.
No, I guarantee you guys that before the summer ends, we will have live reacted to an episode of Lucha Underground.
It is building towards something, folks, and it's just so terrifyingly awesome. I can't wait. Ash, anything else you want to say about this announcement, or can we move on?
No, let's move on. Mil Muertes versus Fenix in a grave consequences match. Basically, to put it into layman's WWE terms, it's a casket match, but with an amazing amount of sort of cinematography and showmanship and just amazingness.
You know, I struggled when the show went off the air because I'm like, oh god, we have to do TWitWoW, and I have to talk about this match. And what words can properly encompass, how I felt. So I'm going to put it in these terms, and this is the biggest compliment I can give it. I have, for the first time, been actively keeping track of matches that I really enjoyed for our 2015 year-end awards, and so far I've only had 2 matches for my match of the year.
And those 2 matches have been?
Ibushi versus Nakamura from Wrestle Kingdom 9.
That's my match of the year so far.
And the triple threat match at Royal Rumble, Cena, Rollins, Lesnar.
Okay.
This is the first Lucha Underground match to make that list.
Aha!
Because this was absolutely incredible from the jump. Because I love how Lucha Underground embraces the Mexican heritage and the culture and everything else. Because they have this kind of like Cinco de Mayo feel in the beginning with these people coming out and dressing in the garb that you think would be appropriate, for the festival. And they're bringing out the coffin. And then you have your entrances. And then from there,
Wait a minute.
what do you... Yeah?
You said Cinco de Mayo. Don't you mean Dia de Muertos?
Well, I heard Vampiro say Cinco de Mayo, so that's just kind of what I went with. But
I thought it was because the Day of the Dead, Dia de Muertos, is a Mexican holiday,
right?
Celebrated through Mexico, and yeah, I kind of thought that's what they were going for. But since when does Cinco de Mayo have like skeleton themes and stuff?
Well, I mean, I've taken Spanish courses. You see, like, skeletons. Sometimes with the baked goods, they'll do, like, skeleton faces, and, like, skeletal look seems to be kind of prominent in their festivals and everything else. But,
interesting.
I mean, let's just, for all cases considered, let's just say it is Dia de Muertos. Regardless, I do love the atmosphere they set up with these people, bringing out the coffin, and they don't go with the druid look. I love it even more because, again, it's culturally reflexive, and I really appreciate that. And then you have the entrances. And then from there, it is just Mil Muertes at his absolute best and most dominant. And you know what else I loved about this match besides the sheer physicality? There are two other things, and I'm going to give it back to you to kind of give your viewpoints. A, I love how the casket was actually used as a weapon. Loved that. Thought that was a great touch because you don't really see that in WWE casket matches, or at least the ones that I've seen.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever... I mean, there have been so few.
Right.
I mean, I don't think I've ever seen anything like that either.
And then the second thing, which I only say this because recently we had the Daniel Bryan versus Kane casket match on that episode of SmackDown. I love how neither guy... Well, primarily it was Milk, because again, we'll get to that in a second, but I love how there was no obsession with trying to get the other man in the casket. I love that they just allowed this to be a fight, and the casket only really mattered when it should have mattered, and that was towards the tail end of the contest. I get that people appreciate false finishes and the psychology of, good evasion or this and that, and, those tense moments, but I just loved how they let the match breathe on its own, and that the casket, even though it was kind of the central theme of the match, obviously, was almost just like another prop in the midst of this just entire war between these two. I thought this match was brilliantly well done, and yeah, again, the highest praise. First Lucha Underground match to make my match of the year list. I loved it that much. But, Ashton, I want you to talk about it for a little bit. Otherwise, I'm going to ramble and be scatterbrained everywhere. I mean, what did you think, dude?
I think that the best way for me to possibly describe this match is everything that I could possibly hope that Kevin Owens versus Sami Zayn 2 would be.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, this is literally the perfect big dominating monster versus scrappy underdog fighting from underneath match. And the great thing is the gimmicks that go along into this match, because it's the man of 1,000 deaths versus the man that can't die.
Yeah, exactly.
Because the Phoenix will always rise again. If you try and kill it, it might burn into ashes, but it's going to rise again. And even on the stream that we were looking at, that we were watching, it was the man of 1,000 deaths versus the man of 1,000 lives. And I love the sort of psychology that went into it's Mil Muertes, the man of 1,000 deaths, versus Fenix, the guy that commentary always talks about how he's the Phoenix and he's going to rise from the ashes. It's such amazing storytelling. And then you combine the storytelling on paper, which is just the writing and the actual story itself, with the storytelling that was told in the match itself, with Mil Muertes just absolutely, and I'm going to say it, murdering Phoenix over and over and over again, and Phoenix never saying die, and eventually overcoming the odds. It was a perfectly told story.
To me, this match was art. I really cannot praise this match enough. Mil Muertes made me believe.
I was even getting uncomfortable at certain points. That's how you know you've done well.
Yeah, I'm like, dude, stop. He's like the most heart-pounding moment for me, and I don't know about you.
When they were at the top of the freaking building.
They were on the top, yeah, and they teased like a superplex through the freaking Lucha Underground commentary table. I was like, stop it, he's already dead. And Mil Muertes made me believe, which I feel like I haven't felt in a while with some of WWE's storylines, that he hated Fenix, and he wasn't going to settle with just beating the man, which is why I love that he didn't focus on trying to get Fenix in the casket all throughout the matchup. No, he wanted to murder Fenix. He wanted to put him down through the ground permanently. And I love that. You could really feel the animosity that Mil felt towards Fenix. And Fenix, it wasn't so much animosity, but just the desperation of trying to survive.
Yep.
Because he would get the stray super kick every now and again, but then Mil would just eat it. Mil was so perfectly booked in this match because you think, oh, yeah, and that's kind of what I thought after the first super kick at one point when they were fighting everywhere on the outside, which, by the way, that's what, when I was clamoring for a Mundo Cuerno false count anywhere match, this is what I envisioned.
Yeah.
So really, I'm in a great mood because even if I don't get that now, I got what I, perceived it would have been because they fought everywhere. And, it just seemed like, oh, Fenix got the super kick. Well, now it's going to be him on offense a little bit and we're just going to have, the race to the No, because Mil ate it and he went right back on the attack. He was so perfectly booked, given the gimmick and everything else. It was perfection, and it made you really pull for Fenix towards the end. The crowd was eating out of the palm of their hands. Phoenix had to do some very desperate maneuvers at some points. He dived off of one really high place onto Mil Muertes, and then he dived again like on a guardrail, so he really used his aerial maneuvering to his advantage. Mil powerbombed Fenix at one point on the table, and the table didn't break, and I'm like, oh god.
Even Lucha Underground tables are tougher than WWE's.
Yeah, exactly. I loved how commentary, because they even said, like, oh shit a couple times, and I loved how they even seemed like really lost in this matchup, and it had a really organic feel to it, the commentary, because they're just like, what are we witnessing? We're witnessing like a public execution here. Phoenix got bellied on the casket at one point because he tried charging at Mil. Mil caught him, and he threw his back on the casket with such force, it caused a dent in the casket. These guys had a war, and I was just there from the get-go. Like, it had my attention gripped, and it didn't let it go until the closing moments. And as you noted, Ashton, and Katrina had the assist because she got accidentally clotheslined by Mil at one point. And I'm thinking, oh, now it's really going to start to unravel. Phoenix actually took advantage. I think he got like an enziguri or something, tried to get back in the ring. They had a little bit of a tussle. Finally, Katrina quickly recovers. I love that. I love that she's actually stronger than your standard.
She's tough, man.
I love that, dude. I love that because I'm like, oh, they're going to do the ref bump kind of thing where she's out for all this time and then she comes right when the... No, I loved it. Again, it's about that authenticity. It made it feel organic. And she opens the lid of the casket. Muertes is on the apron. Phoenix is taking it to him. Finally, Muertes gets hung up, and Phoenix does the kind of balancing walking across the ropes that we saw Aerostar do in the opener. But he does a double stomp to the back of Muertes, the force of it, sending him into the casket.
Can I say I absolutely loved the commentary during this entire exchange? Because Vamp was freaking out, man. He was talking about, who is she trying to help? Who is Katrina trying to help here? What'd she do? Who's she doing this for? Who's she trying to help? And then, and I would have had a huge problem with that if it would have been a turn where she was trying to screw over Phoenix and help Mil. But the way it turned out, it was perfect because it gave you that little seed of doubt. And then when that seed got kiboshed, got just squashed and destroyed and obliterated, it felt so much better than if you just knew she was helping Phoenix the whole time.
Exactly, and I had a reservation about it because I thought that she was hesitating at first to close the lid, and I'm like, oh no. See, and that's why, honestly, because they have votes, like, who do you think is gonna win this match? I had actually picked Muertes because I just thought I didn't trust Katrina, but she grabs the stone. I love how they never forget about this goddamn stone, and she licks it, and she throws it in the coffin with him, and she closes it. and Fenix wins. And then the procession that brought out the coffin to start the match, they come back in and they take it away. And Fenix, who, by the way, I forgot to mention this too, which is kind of important, had his mask virtually torn off by Muertes in this match, and he was bloodied.
Yeah.
Like, he had a crimson mask if I've ever seen one. And
Yeah,
Muertes,
he was borderline Eddie versus JBL in their frickin' I Quit match.
Yeah, it was insanity, dude. Absolute insanity. And Muertes multiple times was just biting the head of Fenix, and that's another, the brutality of this thing. You want to talk about Mortal Kombat, holy shit. And Fenix, you could see the elation and the relief on his face when it was over. You would have thought that he won the world title, and people were even pointing that out. Like, this was a match of such physicality, such intensity, and it was a grudge match. This wasn't a championship match. This was a grudge match, and you would have thought that somebody just gave Fenix the world with the elation on his face. And I'm going to close it by saying this. After that win for Fenix, and Mundo's my boy, and everybody knows that, Fenix should be the #1 contender. Whoever emerges from Cage Puma, Fenix, I think, has a rightful claim to challenge for that championship after that effort, because holy hell, did he take an ass whooping, but he won the damn match. I can't believe it. Amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. It was awesome, and I agree with you. Fenix should be the #1 contender at this point. And really, I mean, that almost makes me wonder. I wonder if because Mil Muertes is now sort of out of the picture and he would be the logical next step for Prince Puma, if he would retain the title, are we going to get a title change next week?
Maybe. I mean, I don't even know. I feel like Muertes being quote-unquote taken out of the equation, though that has its own terrifying implications, because Katrina was walking back with the people, handling the coffin. I mean, when things die, something more. I had a friend once tell me, and I remember, I think it was like my sophomore year of high school, we were talking about evil and things like that. And he said, the troubling thing about evil, John, is that when you destroy one evil, something even worse always takes its place. Mil Muertes has been laid to rest, but what's going to come out on the other side of that coffin?
Yeah, that's another, absolutely.
Like, that terrifies me, because I think Mil Muertes, say what you will about streaks and wins and losses, no. The guy's an ass kicker, okay? And I don't care if the guy is 0-1000. When you look like that and you take care of your business like that, I will never feel comfortable facing him in a dark alley. Ever. Ever. And now he's been locked up in this coffin, so what's awaiting on the other side? What awaits when he comes back from death? And is Katrina going to embrace it, or is she going to continue to kind of guide Fenix down? Because commentary also noted that she could have a real effect on Fenix's future. Is she going to get him in that title picture? I'm telling you, man.
That really does have to be a question, is she going to be Fenix's new valet now?
And for how long? And, so it's so funny, because you think when you close something as intimate as a coffin, you feel like you're supposed to get this feeling of finality. And indeed, in a way, we did. I did feel like something got punctuated here tonight. But the cost being so many other questions arise now. And for the moment, I'm just going to reiterate, Fenix for #1 contender. Absolutely. I don't really see anybody else. And again, this is coming from the die-hard Johnny Mundo mark, who freaked out when he won his cage match against Cuerno. No, I think Fenix is front of the line. And as far as Mil Muertes, God help us all for when that coffin gets opened again, because I don't know what's going to emerge. But, man, I've said it before, I'll say it again. That match was art. Definite match of the year candidate for me. Amazing job, Lucha Underground, seriously.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to say this was the best match that we've gotten from Lucha Underground. No, you know what? I can't even say that, because last week we got frickin' Mundo Cuerno, and that was so good. I do think this was better than that, though. I'm going to say this is the best match that we've gotten from Lucha Underground since Aztec Warfare.
Yeah, absolutely. I love how when it comes to their main events, they just consistently up the ante. And now we got a street fight and a bull rope match next week. Oh, God, it just feels so good to be this jazzed up about a wrestling product, that's outside the scope of WWE.
Yeah.
Just great job, guys. I can't say it enough. Now because of this match, as if I already wasn't invested enough in Puma versus Cage, now I'm really going to be thinking, like, well, whoever wins, how is that going to shape contendership? And hopefully we get questions addressed next week, like, what's happened to Angela Fong? We haven't heard from her in a while, and other things, just so many storylines going on that I have an investment in. They've got me hooked, man, and they ain't losing me anytime soon, and I know you're the same way.
Yep.
So anything else you want to say before we move on to our next segment?
Go for it, brother.
High spots and low shots. You know what? I'm going to say that my low shot is the Crew. They came in, with the man advantage. It's like, it's no DQ. It's 3-on-1. And Big Ryck handed their dignity and their asses to them on a silver platter, one by one. Last being Mr. Cisco, who burned the eye to begin with, and even Sexy Star was able to get a little piece of him. So yeah, not a good night for the Crew. And if you're Dario Cueto, you might be thinking about looking for protection elsewhere, seeing the Crew's performance tonight. So who knows what the future holds with these guys, because Cueto sees everything. So
Yeah, absolutely. All right, my low shot, going to keep it simple. My low shot's Drago. He lost the second of 3 matches, and he's now lost 2 straight to Aerostar. And really, before Aerostar started going against Drago, he was, in a simple word, a nobody as far as the scope of Lucha Underground goes. I know that he's sort of a relevant and if not a big deal in AAA, but people that have watched Lucha Underground, that have become fans of Lucha Underground, who weren't familiar with AAA beforehand, didn't know about Aerostar, and he's kind of making his name off of Drago as far as, like I said, the scope of Lucha Underground goes.
Yeah, Drago's in a very interesting position. He came out, in my mind, the loser of his feud with Cuerno, because Cuerno, donned the deer head on him, and then in their latest encounter, and it's like, okay, I've successfully ensnared my prey. And then Drago tries to get back on track, so he finds himself in this series, and so far he's coming up short. And Drago is definitely one of the cooler-looking characters, and definitely one of the more interesting prospects on the Lucha Underground roster, but he's just not making things click right now. Whereas Aerostar, like you said, here was a guy that came in more under the radar, more low-key, and now he's really making a big splash at the expense of Drago. So yeah, it's been a rough time for the Dragon of Lucha Underground, and we'll see if he can get back on track.
Yep.
Yeah, my high spot's very straightforward. It's Fenix.
Okay, well, we have a co-high spot tonight then.
Yeah, definitely.
Because he became a star tonight.
He did. This was his moment. I think this was his moment now where he is, and I really even felt like he had this status beforehand, but now it's just been cemented where he is like one of the premier stars of this promotion. Yep. And again, I mean, if we're saying that...
He's been so well booked, too, because you got to remember... The week, or I guess it wasn't a week because there was a break, but the episode before Aztec Warfare that they used to set up Aztec Warfare, there were 2 10-man matches, and he won one of them. So it's not like Fenix is kind of coming out of the blue to have this big victory. He's been relatively well established as one of the top guys in Lucha Underground. So yeah, they've done an amazing job. And really, if you think back to it, who were the winners of those 2 matches, John?
Yeah, Fenix and Muertes.
Holy crap, this feud has been going on for months.
Oh my God, what an exclamation point on it too. And you know what I love too? Again, it's just he was just grateful to have survived. And I just think...
And he didn't just survive, he won.
He won, dude. He freaking won. Tattered mask.
Won, brother.
Yeah, tattered mask, crimson mask to take its place and all. He emerged a victor, and you have to imagine that riches are coming his way. I'll be curious, if Dario Cueto has any interaction with Fenix either next week or the following week, because I wouldn't be surprised if we didn't see Fenix at all next week, given the roster rotation that Lucha Underground, like NXT, seems to have.
Well, not only that, but the beating that he took this week.
Yeah, he got the shit beat out. Holy crap.
He got thrown off of a roof.
So, yeah, honestly, yeah, Fenix is my main event. If I could, I'd make that whole main event my high spot because it was just amazing. But, yeah, Fenix is my high spot.
Absolutely. We both, I sign on to that. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you said we do have a high spot. So, with that said, I mean, Ashton, do you have any closing sentiments that you want to express about this show tonight?
Yeah. Well, really, just it's almost like we got two halves that were completely separate episodes, because the first half was good but didn't really stand out at all. It was just sort of like, okay, yeah, this is Lucha Underground. It's always good, but this isn't really that amazingly great that it stands out from the rest of the episodes. And then that second half came in, and it was like, oh my god.
Yeah, I mean, Jesus, that main event. I mean, I've
Yeah.
already said everything I can.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
yeah,
That's my thing. Like, what else is there to say at this point?
there isn't anything. So with that said, guys, this has been Lucha Underground. This has been TWitWoW, the best wrestling podcast made for wrestling fans, by wrestling fans, on the web today. I'm John. That's my cohort and commentary, Ashton. Guys, be sure to comment and subscribe on YouTube. What did you think of this week's episode of Lucha Underground? Do you think I'm being hyperbolic when I call that Coven matchup, or the Grave Consequences matchup, a match of the year contender? Talk to us. Be sure to shift the conversation over to Tweetoff, an amazing pro wrestling group on Facebook. Also take the conversation over to our TwitWoW subreddit. And we will see you again for our NXT review, where Alex Riley will do battle with the NXT champion Kevin Owens. Will Alex Riley be able to get a measure of revenge? Or will Kevin Owens teach Alex Riley that maybe he should have found comfort in his prison? Till then, tune in and peace out.